Welcome back, everyone. This is a special spoiler cast episode of the Essays
Sorry.
and Espresso podcast. It's okay, I'll edit in post. Here with me is my sickly cohort, Acer. How are you?
I'm not sickly. I feel like you should edit that in post too.
No, I'm not editing nothing.
Oh.
And I have my hopefully not as sickly co-host, Boken. What's up?
No, it's just pain, but no coughing.
I feel like we should.
Just pain.
I thought you said Kane, and you were like, you should call
Kane?
me. Yeah,
The fuck?
you should call me Kane from now on.
Boken's gotten a little too deep into Legacy of Kain recently.
Yeah.
He's starting to roleplay.
No, I did 2 hours of gardening yesterday, and now my back is killing me.
Oh.
Ah.
Hey guys, I want you two to call me the Scorpion from now on. I feel like that's a cool nickname.
You know, this is like totally off topic, but you know how the main character will have his like rival character, kind of like Goku has Vegeta. That character is usually referred to as the Lancer. But the villain, if they have a similar counterpart, that character's that's character type is known as the Dragon.
Wait, hold on. The villain has a counterpart?
Like
If a
in the
villain
way
has a
that
Vegeta.
the hero has the Lancer, the villain will have the Dragon. If the villain has a character like a subordinate that fulfills those same character archetypes.
Okay. See, I don't know if I can name any villain that has what Vegeta is to Goku. Because Vegeta is not a subordinate.
No, Vegeta's not a subordinate to Goku's, but like Lancers are not necessarily subordinates, they're more like foils.
But scorpions are subordinates.
I feel like Code Geass, you had Sneasel and the Emperor guy. So one of them would be the dragon, right?
Oh, the dragon, not the scorpion, yeah.
So with that in mind, is Brandon the Lancer or is Harry McDowell the Lancer?
Who are
Or
these people you're
is
talking
Brandon
about?
in fact the dragon because Harry is the villain?
Who? What are we talking about,
What?
Daniel?
We're talking about Gungrave. This is the spoiler cast episode of Gungrave.
You guys
So-
keep calling it a spoiler cast. Is that a real term?
No, Daniel keeps calling it a spoiler cast.
Yes, because that's what it is.
I
We're-
feel like
we're
it's an
talking about the whole thing.
extravaganza.
I mean, we could call it an extravaganza. It's
I-
fine.
I call it a podcast special, and I name the episodes on our channel. So
Yeah, but I make the thumbnail.
Okay, so
that's what it's going to be called.
clearly what this is then, it's a spoiler cast special extravaganza.
That sounds right.
Everyone's happy. So we're talking about Gungrave. I, last time, said that we're going to watch this together and talk about it. And here we are. So this is a show that means a lot to me. When I first watched this show, I didn't really know much going into it. I don't even remember if at the time I knew that this was an adaptation of a video game, which to this day, I've never played the Gungrave games. I might do it, but I hear they're kind of generic. I don't know. Whatever. I don't really care. But I remember when I first heard about the show and wanted to watch it, I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be some schlocky, like sci-fi, shoot 'em up, whatever. Just like at the time, I was like just really into action anime, and that's all I wanted out of anime. I just wanted something that was just mindless action scenes. And that is not what I got at all. Now, I had asked you not to watch the first episode. And the reason is because the first episode does the same thing as Berserk, although a little bit differently. The first episode is actually also episode 18.
Is
If
it
you guys remember
literally
that
the same
episode.
episode, or do they
It is
change anything?
literally the same episode. The only real difference is in episode 18 itself, they put in inner monologues that weren't there in when you watched it the first episode. I think that's literally the only thing that was changed.
What is episode 18?
That's the episode where Brandon first wakes up.
On the bridge.
Yeah, on the bridge, and then he's shooting up the Orgman, and the Tokioka is like, he is grave beyond the grave. So yeah, which brings me to like a weird thing about this show, because the biggest problem with Gungrave is that it feels like two different shows. You have episode 1, and then you have episodes like 18 up to, I want to say up to like the last 3 episodes. It's like this, like I said, schlocky, like over the top action anime nonsense. And then the rest of the show is this like mafia mobster, like gritty suburban crime drama story. And it's like, I don't think the show really does a good job of making these two disparate elements of the show like cohesive. It really doesn't. So that's like something that I like. Every time I rewatch the show, it's something I have to wrestle with, where like this show has so much really great stuff in it, but then you also have this like elephant in the room, this just like this glob of cheese that's ruining like an otherwise like delicious steak. It's like, get this cheese off my steak, you know?
No.
Yeah, it doesn't really mesh at all. Like, even
No.
they use the supernatural powers and these weird augmen that they create to basically subjugate the city.
Yes.
But I feel like it would be more impressive if Harry did that without the supernatural powers. And it kind of makes you wonder, is there an army in this country? Wouldn't they come in when they see these super enhanced soldiers just take over everything? And how does the city even function at that point? It's really weird.
I'm guessing like even if there was an army, like these things don't die unless you have like special bullets or whatever. So I don't know.
So, but then you have to wonder why this is only happening in this city. Why isn't Harry ruling the fucking country or the world at this point?
I mean, I'm guessing that's what his goal was, because like at the when we had the 13-year time skip towards the end where Harry is like an old man, Ballad Bird Lee is like, oh, you're basically, you know, you own the whole city, and Harry's not satisfied with that. He's like, nope, we got to keep going. And so it did feel like I remember even someone joked, he's like, you know, oh, what does Harry want to do with all this money? He's like, he probably wants to buy the moon at some point. Like, just it seemed like his ambition knew no limits. And
but it took him a sweet ass time because he was pretty old at the end.
True.
He just aged poorly, right?
He was really 45.
No, I mean, it was just 13 years. He just aged poorly because of all the stress of the job, I imagine, right?
He was 39 years old when
but he looked late 50s.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he did. He
looked like an old man.
See,
he really did.
I'm saying that's the stress of the job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I think they made him look a little too old, but yeah, maybe you could see it as, oh, that's the stress of the job. But so
maybe we should back up a bit.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because we're talking about some of the stuff that happens in the end. So, for those that have never seen the show, right? So if you watch the first episode again, it looks like sci-fi anime schlock. You have the main character in a ridiculous outfit, which he only really wears like 2 or 3 times in the whole show, despite the fact that it's like on all the promotional art or whatever. So
That outfit is the dumbest thing in the world.
It's ridiculous.
It's so
He's got a
busy.
cowboy hat, like.
He's still wearing the glasses, and you can only sometimes see them. And then he's wearing glasses, even though he also has like an eye patch situation going on,
Yeah.
which he also has his hair combed over.
That's the costume from the video game, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the
All
anime-
the sci-fi stuff feels like the animators were begrudgingly like the Madhouse was like. It felt like Madhouse had their own original story and they were like really passionate about, and then they were begrudgingly like, oh yeah, this is like based on a video game. I guess we gotta put this video game bullshit in here.
But you also noticed that you said he only wears it like 3 times. For the most times, he's just like hair out, wearing like a coat, which is a much better
black
design.
trench coat. I guess it was a pain in the ass for them to draw. They're like, oh, let's just. Okay, we'll throw it in a couple of episodes. Let's just not bother.
They also destroyed his big gun, I noticed.
They did, and apparently that's like in the video game a big part of the gameplay. But anyways, so that's the first episode, right? Very next episode makes you think you popped in the wrong show, where suddenly it flashes back. It does a berserk. It flashes back, and we see Brendan Heat, the main character, is a young guy. He's a street punk, and he's part of a little gang with his friends, and most importantly, Harry McDowell. Now, one of the reasons why I asked you guys not to watch episode 1 is because episode 1 makes it very clear that Harry betrays and kills Brendan. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I was like, maybe don't watch that episode. Now, personally, I'm going to make a video about this because I think it's interesting. Personally, I feel like that can take away the impact of certain things for people. But I think there's also it can give the show its own unique flavor if you do watch the episode and you know what's going to happen, because then it creates tension, and then you're like, oh, when's the turn going to happen? So it's 2 different experiences, but I thought you guys might appreciate
I'm gonna say it was the right call, because that episode and that scene in particular in the elevator is my favorite part of that show, or my favorite moment.
That's the best episode in the
Yeah.
show. And I feel like that moment is tarnished a little bit if you've seen the first episode, because then it becomes obvious, oh, this is the moment where Harry kills Brendan. So I still think it's like mwah, beautiful, even if you know. But like, yeah, I feel like if you don't, then the scene has a little more oomph to it. So most of the show, I want to say like 2/3 of the show is dedicated to Brandon and Harry, starting from the very bottom. They're, again, little street gang, moving their way up in an organization called Millennium. And what ends up happening is Harry and Brandon pull each other up. Harry is the brains. He's the one that's making all the connections. He's moving up the ladder. And Brendan is the muscle. He's a beast. He's like the best street sweeper in the organization. He's like this amazing gunsman, and it's because of his strength and it's because of like how skilled he is that Harry is able to, one, be protected by him, but also like get rid of the people that are in his way. And slowly but surely, Harry just is like one of the top people in Millennium. And by the end of the show, he is Millennium. He overthrows everyone, and he is at the very, very top. So that's basically the show for the most part. So I wanted to ask how you guys felt about it. So I'll start with Acer. So what were your thoughts?
So when I started watching, I thought, I'm skeptical about this because the first episode I watched was episode 2. And it's just like, these street punks, and they're going around causing all sorts of trouble. But as I kept watching, I was like, okay, this is I'm enjoying this. There's the drama, there's the sort of politics of going up the chain of command.
There's progression constantly.
Yeah, and I totally buy that these characters, like, they're slowly changing over time. That Brendan, he starts in the organization. He's sort of lost, but there's a sort of meaning he finds in doing the jobs for them. It's the Iron Code, isn't it?
The Code of Iron.
The Code of Iron, yes. And as for Harry, I totally buy. For example, like we talked about it, that Harry kills Brendan. That scene isn't my favorite scene. My favorite scene is when he kills the shopkeeper.
Yes!
Like that, like he lost it.
Like, he just kills this guy for, like, almost, like, no reason, really. Like, he just assumed that this kid hated the manager, and then he just shoots him. And then, yeah, he just breaks down. He starts yelling and screaming about how Brendan betrayed him. He tried to rationalize what happened, and he starts bawling, just like tears, because it suddenly caught up to him that he killed his best friend, and that he thinks that his friend betrayed him. Oh, it's so good.
Harry is my favorite character in the show by a pretty wide margin. But as for what you guys said earlier, that the juxtaposing tones don't quite work, I kinda disagree.
Okay, interesting.
To me, I saw the first half of the show as like, there's intrigue and there's sort of the politics of it all, and that's because that's the world they live in. But after the time skip, it's sort of a it speaks to how much Harry has ruined the world, that there is no more of this politics stuff, because the world is moved far beyond that. This is just a brutal world now where you just kill people to get your point across.
I feel like the show didn't make that clear. They didn't show anything about what it's like living in that city. They only show the mafia life.
Sure, but I still
I think I would argue that they did show what it was like in the early episodes.
Well, for the street punks, yeah.
Yeah, but they don't really go into any detail about, like, living a normal life.
And the city doesn't look ruined. It looks pretty clean overall.
Yeah, but it's also totally empty.
Yeah,
which I thought was a pretty
by
cool
the end
touch.
of the show. By the end of the show, like, Mika herself, she walks around and, like, everyone is gone. She's like, "Oh, the city's deserted."
but I feel like they didn't make the connection that is because of Harry. It felt to me like they just didn't bother animating a lot of people.
No. I think it's pretty clear it's because of everything that was going on.
It's just because Madhouse were lazy.
No, I don't want to say lazy, but the animation on this isn't great.
Yeah, again, that's
another
weakness thing, where you just use you don't have the budget for animation, so you just use, like, direction, composition, and all that.
Speaking of direction, one thing in particular that I love about this show is how it's willing to be quiet. Like, I feel like every other show I watch, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, like, they'll shove a music track in, like, every single moment. And Gungrave is perfectly fine with just having the characters talking and sound effects, and that's it. And they'll have these moments where, like, you don't hear anything. And I love that. It gives the show kind of like a uncomfortable feeling at times, where it's just the tension between the characters, and that's it.
I feel like that's just because Madhouse were too lazy to record music.
That's not true.
I know.
There's like plenty of music, actually.
No, yeah, there's a lot of music.
I'm kidding.
And the music is good, but, like, I just think, like, they did a really good job of just, like, certain moments where, like, no music. We don't need it. And it was the right choice.
Yeah. anyway, just sort of finishing my review. I didn't quite love the second half as much as I did the first half. I think that's going to be the universal, right, Bogan? The universal opinion.
Yeah.
Specifically,
I was waiting for my review.
No one's gonna fight you on this. I'd more so say it's the. I people say first half, second half. I think it's more like the first 2/3 of the show versus the last third. To be fair.
Yeah, that's more fair. Specifically, I would place it at I really didn't like Mika and her relationship with Brendan. I just we'll get
I
get that.
We'll
I
get
really
into
didn't
that.
like Maria, and I really liked Mika.
I kind of disliked both of them. I feel like, and maybe I'm getting ahead of the conversation here, but I feel like every woman in this show was really underdeveloped.
I completely agree with that.
Except, I think Mika was very well developed. She just was too young to do anything. And I think that's kind of the point.
Fair.
I can
but
see
like
that.
my problem is, I feel like, with exception to Mika, the other female characters, Maria and Sherry in particular, their relationships are like their characters are defined by their relationships with other characters. So like Maria is basically just defined by her relationship with Brendan and Big Daddy. Sherry is defined by her relationship with Harry, and that's it.
I wrote this down in my notes. Like, this show is not passing the Bechdel test.
I don't know what that is.
Really? It's that thing when you watch a show or a movie and you look at the female characters, and if they at some point have a discussion that does not involve a male character at all. Like, they don't talk about a male character, and they are not talking to a male character.
I think Mika does, at least.
She doesn't talk. I don't think she talks to any female character outside of her mom.
Well, she talks to her mother about Brandon, and that's it.
Yeah, okay. Well, she talks to her about her dad and Brendan, so yeah.
So two male characters.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there's not a lot of female characters.
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
show
That's the problem.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. So yeah, I did feel that was like a weakness of the show. I was just like, these female characters are not super great.
I also I really didn't like how she kind of fell for Brendan, or beyond Gungrave, as you guys call it. I feel
didn't
like
mind that.
I feel like that's kind of like just what is he, 13?
Yeah, she is.
I didn't need to watch that.
Like, in her defense, she is a young girl. You know, like, her emotions are like all over the place. Like, she's in an extremely tense and like frightening situation, and Brendan is like her rock. It's like it's like the only person she can depend on. And you know, there's also that connection of like, she knows that this was someone that meant a lot to her mother. So
yeah, I can.
You know, it makes a lot of sense. I would say.
I wouldn't say it's nonsensical. I just didn't really like it. I felt like it was bordering
Totally
on
fair.
a really creepy.
No, that's fair. But like, Brendan, in his defense, he was just like, no, he was not about it.
That's true.
I think Brendan just saw her as like more of a little sister type character.
Yeah, so that's those are my opinions on the show. What did you think, Bogan?
Yeah, this is very difficult to talk about this show because overall I liked it, but ever since I've finished watching it, I've mostly thought about the negatives and all the stuff that I would improve.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say like the show doesn't have problems. It really does, and it's a bummer. But like, I don't know. For me, it's just like the show transcends that for me. Like, I feel like the stuff that's good, like, outweighs the bad.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I liked it. There was no part where I was bored. There were a couple of bad episodes that I thought were actually really bad, but overall, even the third part of the show, where we could all agree it was weaker than the rest.
Where it was forced to like remember that it was an adaptation of a video game.
Yeah. Even that part, I appreciate how well they are tying everything together, at least. And it's like, it's pretty tightly written.
I would say, like, given the situation, I think they did the best that they could. Like, I mean, I never played the games, to be fair, so, like, I really don't know how faithful it is or whatever, but, like, if you were given the task of, like, here, make an anime based on this, like, generic schlocky, like, PS2 third-person shooter, like, I think they went above and beyond and made something that was, like, way better than they had any right to be.
I watched a friend of mine play one of the games when we were kids. It's my...
How was it?
From memory, it was like all right, but I was a kid, so I can't say. It's the one with the blue boss and then the red face in the end. Whichever one that is.
I don't know. But like the designs of some of the characters definitely felt like they were ripped from the game. Like when Bob fucking grows like a helicopter propeller and starts throwing explosive fat. I'm like, God.
Can we talk about the last episodes? Or are we not there yet? Should we talk about the rest first?
I mean, we can talk about what you want.
Yeah, I don't know if like I have a lot of thoughts about the last, what is it, 6, 7 episodes?
Okay. Yeah, something like that.
Because it's just it's a series of one-on-ones that that Brandon has to go through until he actually reaches Harry, just like in a video game, basically.
Yes, it feels like a video game so bad.
And it annoyed me that every episode, because it was also very transparent, every episode would end with him defeating one of the big four, right?
Yes.
And I feel like what bothered me about that so much was that most of these characters had the fights didn't represent the relationships that Brandon had to these characters. Like Brandon to Bell Walken is such a complex relationship, and then they just fight, and he turns into a monster, and then he dies. Yeah. And I expected so much more from that character, for example. And that's why, for example, I liked the first Bungie fight, because that ends in Bungie not even wanting to fight and not even being able to stand up to Brandon at all, because he's not a superior.
What I really liked about that scene in particular was Bungie has had like no problems killing anyone, but Bungie knew that there was a connection between Brendan and Mika, and he didn't kill Mika.
Yeah, he pretended to kill her until Brandon was putting an end to it. He was banking on Brandon finally just putting him down, and he survived too. And there was such a smart way to end that. And then Bungie goes to the scientist and makes himself a superior so they can have a one-on-one where he pointlessly dies.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? Fucking why?
I don't know. Yeah, they should have just ended it with Bungie beforehand and just left it at that. It did feel pointless that they brought him back to have one more fight. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, because they weren't really, they were friends. They were brothers, basically. In the anime, he calls him Aniki, like big bro. Yeah. And I feel like Bungie should have either just left or turned to Brandon's side, because that feels like what he wasn't really believing Brandon was a traitor. So for him to just then have his ego bruised or something because he couldn't defeat Brandon and turn himself into a superior so he can have a chance, that's not the way that character should go.
I didn't see it so much that his ego was bruised.
Or he was looking for a fun fight because they were laughing the entire time. But that was weird too.
I think it was more that Bungie just wanted like one final bout with him. But it still feels pointless.
They never fought though. I feel like they never were in a competition.
No.
Their places were pretty clear throughout the show.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like they were never rivals or anything like that. Yeah. Like Bungie looked up to Brendan and respected him. And there was never a moment where like Bungie was like, I don't feel like I'm on Brandon's level. I feel so. There was none of that like inferiority complex nonsense.
And that overall is what I kind of disliked is that everyone bought that Brandon betrayed the organization. No one kind of questioned Harry about what actually happened there in that elevator. And
No, I don't think that's true. I think people realized what Harry's deal was at that point, and they would probably assume like, yeah, Brendan. Chances are Brendan didn't betray. Brendan just did something that Harry didn't like, and that's why Harry got rid of him.
yeah, but then Bungie should have switched sides, or I feel like Bear Walken should have had some kind of moral dilemma about it, because he ends up a really flat one-note character where he just wants his daughter to be safe. And I feel like they could have at least given him some kind of moral quandary about, I know that Harry actually killed Brandon for no reason, or he betrayed Brandon. So, and now I have to fight Brandon. What the fuck am I going to do? Am I going to turn sides? Am I going to put my daughter in danger? And that wasn't played up at all. And that's why I'm saying all these relationships that they could have developed more didn't get developed in the end because they just pointlessly fight each other.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
It's just Brandon gains no allies when he comes back, and that bothered me. That really bothered me.
I guess they wanted to play up like the hopelessness of his situation.
But that doesn't work too, because Brandon is fucking indestructible.
Well, not really. Brandon basically dies at the end.
Yeah, at the end, when everything is said and done. But he keeps eating bullets and like he gets hit. He does not show any damage whatsoever, except from those 2 shots that Bungie had with his special magic gun. But even that doesn't stop Brandon at all. That's why, okay, if you want to play up the action, you can do that. But then the action needs to be good. And Brandon is way too overpowered for that.
No, the fights are pretty lame. And part of that also has to do with the show is just did not have the best budget, and the animation is like really stiff.
Yeah.
And there are some shots that just don't look very good. Like that fight with Ballad Bird Lee, where he transforms, like, this is not a great fight. Again, it felt like a video game boss fight. It's like, oh, this is the part where you have to shoot the legs. You know, like.
Yeah, Brandon is eating bullets in every fight, and he doesn't show it. And I need my protagonist to be in an actual danger.
It was weird to me how in the early episodes, the point of Brandon was that he was a really good fighter. That wasn't really the dynamic later on, because he's just sort of tanking everything.
Yeah.
Where it maybe would have played a bit better if he were still a really good fighter. He was augmented, but he was augmented 13 years out of date. So he can survive hits, but he's still massively inferior to everyone around him. Outside of his ability to fight.
Yeah, it didn't really feel like he was at a massive disadvantage compared to the other superiors. He just kind of just took him down, you know? Like, as long as he had the right bullets, he could fucking do whatever and take hits.
Yeah.
So, Gungrave, the video games, clearly take after Devil May Cry, don't they?
I think that's a fair comparison.
It's interesting.
Like, it looks like whoever made those games saw Devil May Cry and they were like, okay, that's cool, but let's take out the melee weapons and let's just focus on the gun kata.
Do you think Kamiya made those games? You think if I Google his gameography, I'm gonna find it?
No.
The plot is way too sensible for that.
I feel like that's like a Sakaguchi last story deal where he's like booted off Devil May Cry and then he just makes Devil May Cry again. No. What else?
what else? What like?
Uh,
There's still a lot to talk about.
yeah. What else? What else do you want to talk about?
So I think that for me, right? Like the show is great up until like I want to say episode 18 itself, where episode 18 is where you know it mirrors episode 1, and then after that the show dips in quality, and then I want to say like the last 2 or 3 episodes, the show brings back what made it great, beforehand. So episode I want to say it was episode 25. A lot of that episode is a flashback of things that where we see like Brandon and Harry when they first met Maria, and it shows the Harry and Maria going on a little date, and it shows how simple that time was, and it shows like how much things have changed since then. And Harry even has a moment in his like flashback dream because he had just crashed his car. This is like a fever dream that he's having, and he looks in the mirror and then suddenly realizes that he's old, and he kind of freaks out because he's still in the dream. And then he sees himself, and he sees everyone else running around outside, and that hit me, man. Like, because it almost feels like Harry realized how much of his life he wasted. I forget if it was episode 26 or the last episode, or if it was that episode, but Harry says that, I think it was this episode 25 during this flashback, where Harry says that he was fine with his lot in life at the time because he felt free. And I think that more than anything else is what Harry wanted. And I think it's what defines his character. He just wanted to feel like nothing was holding him back. And during this period of his life, he even tells Brendan, like, hey, what are you doing, hanging out with us? You should, Maria's old man, he doesn't like us. You should get away from us. You could get a real job, have a normal life with Maria. And then Brendan was like, but what about you? And Harry's like, I'm free. I like my life the way it is right now. And then I think it was at the end of episode 2, and then during episode 3, when all their friends died. You had that one kid who made them food. You had the Smokey, and you had what?
Smokey.
I think that's what his name was. Unless I'm mixing it up with the JoJo
I think
character.
you are.
I might be.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't Smokey, but okay. Are you talking about the black kid?
Yeah.
That's JoJo.
I'm thinking of JoJo. My bad. But the point is, like, I think when all those characters died, that was a realization for Harry when he suddenly realized, oh, I'm not free. Like, I thought I was. I thought I could do whatever I wanted, but what I have isn't enough to truly be free. That's when he realized that he also needed power. And I think that's what started this descent or ascent, however you want to see it, and where he became the leader of Millennium. Because it was because of that event shifting his perspective on what it means to be free.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
totally. And then at the end...
oh my God. I gotta say, one thing I love about the ending, the last episode, when Harry and Brendan are arguing with each other, mostly Harry, because Brendan doesn't talk that much, it goes back and forth between showing like their older versions and their younger versions. Like, that was so beautiful. It was so good. Love that episode. That's like that final episode is one of the best episodes.
What do you think Mika saw at the end?
I think it's pretty clear that both of them are dead at the end.
But she has a weird reaction to that.
She does. So I don't know if maybe Brendan is actually still alive because, like, I don't know. I guess a bullet wouldn't actually do anything to him at that point. Or it could be that, like, because what she says at the end is like, "We're a family, right?" And then she starts crying. So that could be taken as, "Oh, he's still alive, and she, he's gonna be her family," or
I think she says, I understand you are family, or this is about family.
that wasn't what my subtitles said. I was because I have it on Blu-ray, and I was watching the Funimation translation, so that's what they put. They put that it's like, "Oh, we're a family, right?"
I don't remember what the dub said. You guys confused me.
Oh man, you missed out on the English though. Every character, Bob Pound Max, Brendan Heat,
Barado Bordoli.
Bear Walking.
Yeah, what is that? Like, anime does this where they speak English words poorly. Why?
It's not their native language. What do you
No,
expect?
but
It's not only English.
Yeah, but you don't have American cartoons. They don't do like in the middle of it all. Let's just talk bad Spanish or bad Japanese. Like I'm wondering, it's not that they do it poorly. It's that they do it at all. Specifically, like with Yu-Gi-Oh, why are the monsters? Why do they all have English names?
This has been a thing for decades.
I'm just wondering why that is.
The Japanese like the English language. They think it sounds cool.
Oh. It does sound cool when they speak it.
But they do it with German too.
It's the same thing with
true.
weebs, right? Like, weebs love to say, like, random Japanese words. Or, like, Garugamesh. They just think it sounds cool. It's the same thing over there.
If I had a nickel for every time I've had to edit out some fucking weeb dialogue Daniel has thrown out on this podcast, I would be a rich man. Go on, Daniel.
Yeah, you'd have all 0 nickels.
The Japanese have this weird, I feel like, romantic ideas of other languages because most people there don't understand other languages. And it's just, maybe they don't even realize obviously they don't realize how wrong that is. And there's a lot of, even in the opening songs, you always can hear English words through the Japanese lyrics. Just randomly thrown in there for no reason.
Yeah, you'll hear a song, it's like, Ashiteru mi, and then all of a sudden they're like, my love.
It was the weirdest fucking thing to me when in Mushishi season 2, the opening song was actual English. Just an English song.
Oh. Wait, wasn't the ending theme of the original season of Mushishi an English song?
No, the ending theme for Mushishi is different in every episode.
Is it?
Yep.
I remember it being
definitely.
Some, like,
that is one of my favorite parts of that show.
Okay. I just remember, maybe it was the opening. I don't know. I remember there being like some acoustic guitar song.
Yeah, that's the opening of the second.
If only we would ever watch.
Show.
If only this was a Mushishi extravaganza, we could
dive
a bit deeper into
eventually.
this.
I mean, I don't mind rewatching Mushishi.
We will eventually.
I thought you were going to make us watch Avatar.
We will eventually watch Avatar too.
All right. But I missed out on the English, you guys say.
Yes.
Yeah, it's bad. But it's also
glorious.
It's also charming. I can't help but smile when I hear that.
And it's so much better because the names are so ridiculous and over the top. It's like Bob Poundmax? Like, what the fuck? Ballad Bird Lee? What is this?
Brandon Heath is like the most English name ever.
I mean, the Harry McDowell is the most normal name. It sounds like a real name.
But they can't pronounce that. They keep going, Harry McDowell.
Yeah. The only other name that comes close to sounding like a real name is Bear Walken. Yeah, I don't know what was up with the name. At least Big Daddy makes sense because, like, okay, that's like the nickname for, because he owns the organization.
Did we ever hear his real name? No, right?
I believe
Ebenezer, I believe.
His name is Asagi.
Huh.
Like early on, when he picks up Maria and he's like, "Hey, you should like live in my mansion," he refers to himself as Asagi. So I'm assuming that's his real name. Yeah, Big Daddy is also a really interesting character, I'd say. And it's a really weird and interesting take on a mafia mob boss because you'd think they'd be ruthless, you'd think they'd be like cold and calculating, but he actually feels like a really kind, warm-hearted like grandpa for most of the show. But at the same time, he's the leader of this like ruthless organization. But he tries to manage it in a way that is respectful. Like, he doesn't want... I remember, like, in an early episode, when Harry tries to get an organization, he's like, "Oh, I'll go kill those guys." And the guy he's talking to, he's like, No. That's... a dead person doesn't do us any good. What you want to do is you got to squeeze them. You got to find out why they wanted to take you out, and then you have to use that against them, and then you gotta get money out of them. So it's still like kind of sneaky and underhanded, but there's some sense of morality to it as well, because he tells Harry like, "Hey, killing people is a last resort. Like we in the organization, we try to avoid that when we can, because that ends up creating more problems."
Yeah, yes, so, he has this kind of criminal code where he goes like, I'm the boss, and you're not gonna have any problems if you do what I tell you. And Big Daddy is never the aggressor. He just becomes the aggressor and has other people do it for him when they fuck up. I mean, one of the first episodes that showed that was episode 5 or something, where Bear Walken's old friend comes in and his son fucked up. Like he took money from he took money from one of the Millennium people and killed him.
No. Yeah, he killed him. And then he told his son, to run away. But someone had to take responsibility for what happened. And Sid had to. And, and that was that was the same episode where they explained what the Code of Honor was. So they established what the Code of Honor was in the episode. And then at the very end of the episode, they show the repercussions of breaking it.
That was one of my favorite episodes, and then the first time where I really got into the show.
Yeah, that moment where Bear and Sid are sharing the cigarette.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's going to happen, but he can't do it, and so Harry comes in. Brandon comes in.
I really love that because, like, Bear seems like such a badass up to that point.
Yeah.
But that's a moment where you realize, no, this is a human being. Like, he can't just kill his friend. He doesn't want to do it. And he even, after the episode, I remember, I think it was during Sid's funeral, Bear even told Brendan, like, "Hey, I appreciate it, but at the same time, you don't have to force yourself to do, like, unpleasant things like that. You need to learn to live for yourself." And then Brendan gives some comment where, like, he's like, "I don't know what it's like to do that." And I always thought, like, Brendan was such a fascinating character because, like, he is relentlessly selfless to the point where like it ends up being his demise as well, because he's also caught in between his loyalty to Big Daddy and his loyalty to Harry. And it's because of that where Harry just freaks out. Like, I believe it was episode 15, was it? Or 16? The episode where Harry is listening in on Big Daddy and Brendan talking. And this was after Big Daddy decided not to nominate Harry as his successor. And you know, Big Daddy's having a heart-to-heart to Brendan about it. He's like, look, I understand Harry's technically the most suited, but there's something about him I don't, you know, he rubs me the wrong way. I don't think he'd actually be a good fit. And then Brendan fires back like, hey, Harry would never betray the organization. But if anyone breaks the code of iron, you know, regardless of who they are, I'm going to kill him. And Harry, hearing this, freaks out because Harry, by this point, has already broken the code of honor. But the thing is, Brendan is lying at that moment because he already knew about all the stuff that Harry was doing. Harry technically already broke the code of iron. But Brandon, you know, looked the other way because Harry's his best friend. And in that moment, in the elevator, one of the best moments in the whole show, Harry couldn't fucking do it. He could not kill his friend, even when his friend is in his face telling him, "Hey, let's kill the old man. Let's do it. You can have Maria back." And he flips out, punches him in the face, but could not bring himself to shoot him. But Harry did. Harry was willing to kill his best friend because he was scared of the one person he trusted more than anyone else. And that fear drove him to the brink. Such a powerful moment. Like, I think this show has like really interesting things to say about like the bonds that we create with people.
What is the
and there's so much. The relationship between Brendan and Harry is so rich.
Yeah. What is the general reception of the show?
Basically that the mafia stuff is great and that the sci-fi stuff is not so great.
But is this show held in high regard by other people than you?
Yeah, I've seen some people who are like me that are like holding the show up and be like, it's really good. But I don't think it's like it's ever been like an especially popular show or anything like that. So it's not like there's a ton of discussion about it.
You are the only person I've ever seen mention that show even.
I'm not surprised.
I mean, Dominic said to me the other day that he also likes the show, but yeah.
Yeah, because I showed it to Dom.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why he watched it. But, you know, it's moments like that elevator scene that I hold this show near and dear because, like, yeah, I you know, you guys have brought up some valid complaints and I don't disagree with them. But, you know, I feel like Brendan and Harry's relationship is the bedrock of the show. And it's like, it's so good. You know, it kind of reminds me in a way of the relationship between Guts and Griffith, but like the dynamics are like very different. Where like Guts and Griffith, like Guts kind of looked up to Griffith and he wanted Griffith to see him as an equal, and Griffith wasn't totally sure about his feelings towards Guts. If he saw him as a friend or not, he wasn't even sure himself. But while in Gungrave, Harry and Brendan, their whole relationship is defined by the fact that they saw each other as equals, but in totally different ways. Like, Harry himself says, on my own, I'm not that great. But with Brendan at my side, the two of us together are stronger than anyone.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate how much Harry realized that it was his connection to Brendan that made him what he was. And, without Brendan, I mean, and you could say the same about Brendan, right? Like, without Harry, Brendan would just be some tough thug, and that's it. Like, there wouldn't... It's the fact that the two of them are together that makes them such a dynamic duo. And it makes, like... It's the reason why that they were able to rise in Millennium the way that they did. And I guess you can also say, like, that's why Harry fell afterwards. Like, after he killed Brendan. Like, yeah, technically he was... He still became the head of Millennium, and he took over the town. But then, by the final episode, people got sick of Harry's shit, and then they ousted him.
Yeah, and he had nobody to back him up anymore.
Yeah, well, most of them had either died or they were like, nah, we don't really like you anymore. And it shows like his managerial style, I guess you could say. It shows the flaws in it, right? And without someone like Brendan to make up for his flaws, it was bound to like collapse upon itself.
Yeah, you talked earlier about Big Daddy's managerial style. When Harry took over Millennium, and we have the time skip. I think they did a really good job of showing just how hollowed out the organization had become.
Yeah, it felt like when Big Daddy was the leader, there was a sense of community, like, or like family. They actually did feel like a family, and that was completely gone with Harry at the head. Like, it was just Harry's organization. It was not anyone else's.
Yeah, the top four were very loyal to him,
and that's it.
And Big Daddy was all about harmony.
And the only reason why they were loyal to him, like the only reason Bear Walken was loyal, was because of his daughter. Ballad Bird Lee and Bob.
But he was a good husband to his daughter, from what is shown.
Yes. Everything that they show about the two of them, he was great to her. So, I think in Bear's perspective, like, he's keeping his daughter happy, and that's good enough.
Yeah. Again, family.
Family.
Is that the big theme of the show? Family?
I'd say it's one of the themes.
Yeah. Another one is ambition, obviously.
Betrayal.
Cool guns.
Zombies.
God, the designs of those zombies were so bad.
Oh God, what the fuck are these two wings on their shoulders?
I know!
What the fuck is that?
What is up with that? And then you have the ones where their hands turn into like the big turrets or whatever. Like, what the fuck is that?
I feel like that's probably ripped straight from a video game.
I want to say that I have seen these wings in other media before. That is probably some mythological thing from Japan.
It's some,
but it just looks really dumb on these hunky zombies dressed in suits.
Those are some public domain wings.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but Gungrave was actually written by Naoto, who is the same guy that did Trigun.
I've never seen Trigun.
You've never seen Trigun?
No.
Oh, that's weird.
What is it?
It's weird that shocks you, Daniel.
Yeah, I would say that's even weirder.
But, like, Trigun is one of those animes that, like, even people that don't watch a lot of anime have seen.
I don't even know what it's... Okay, it's a medieval fantasy anime, isn't it?
No.
Trigun?
What is
There's
it?
gun in the title.
Oh.
Take another stab at it.
No, no, it's not. It's not medieval anything.
It's a man with 3 arms and 3 guns.
No, he doesn't have 3 arms. No,
He has
it's
three
basically
guns.
like it's a sci-fi western.
Oh, so it's like a Cowboy Bebop. It's exactly the same, is what you're saying.
No, it's not like Cowboy Bebop.
Oh. I've seen an episode of that.
You've never
Only
seen
one?
Cowboy Bebop? What the fuck?
I saw the first episode and I was like,
Oh
"Yep,
god, come on.
I can."
What is wrong with you?
Like, that's the most normie anime.
Hey now,
That's something you should totally watch.
hey now, I'm gonna watch Handshakers for some fucking reason.
Oh, fuck.
That's true. We have to watch that next, huh?
What is Trigun? Who is this guy who wrote Gungrave?
His name is Naoto.
Yeah.
And yeah, Trigun is like I said, it's like a Western sci-fi show. I don't personally like Trigun as much as Gungrave. Trigun is still good, but my problem with Trigun is the comedy is absolute dog shit. Like,
Oh, okay.
it,
I was afraid to speak up, but that's why I quit it like 3 episodes in.
wait
Wait a
Trigun's
minute! You're judging
fairness-
me from not watching Trigun. You ditched it yourself.
Well, in Trigun's defense, towards the end of the show, it mostly drops the humor. And I would say like the second half of the show is much better than the first half. But that humor is awful. And you do have to... It's like on the level of Full Metal Alchemist's humor, which is also terrible. Just this like cringy, like painfully unfunny, over the top like garbage. But no, Trigun is... We're getting past that. Trigun is still a good show. The main character, Vash the Stampede, is really great. And I would recommend it. It's one of those shows I'd say like non-anime fans could get into, assuming you can get over the bad humor, because the rest of what the show has to offer is very good.
I'm just imagining Gungrave with Full Metal Alchemist's little character distortion jokes.
Yeah, that's kind of Trigun.
See,
There's even some like fan rumors, or fan theories rather, that Gungrave takes place like thousands and thousands and thousands of years after Trigun, because there's a creature that the characters ride on in Trigun that you can see in Gungrave as well.
Oh my god, that shit in Gungrave was so out of place. It was so weird when they were riding like dinosaurs or something.
Yeah, those
Just
are
in
the-
these
those are
random
the
2
ones.
shots throughout the 26 episodes.
Yep, that's it. That's the same creature. I think it's called the Wonton or something like that.
the noodles.
Yeah, those creatures are from Trigun. So
Okay.
because of that, people are like, oh, maybe they're connected.
I just googled
I mean,
Trigun
it would make
here.
sense.
I may have seen this character in passing. Red cape, red coat, yellow hair. This does not look like a normie thing. Who's gonna break the silence?
All right. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up about the show?
Oh.
Did you get all of it out?
I could whine a bit more about episode 10 and 11, which I hated.
Oh yeah, you really didn't like Blood War and
Yeah.
Gun Vulcan.
Which was
I
the-
mean, I didn't really mind those episodes so much.
Really?
What did you hate about them?
Well, I mean, it's the first time the supernatural elements are introduced, right?
That is true. I will give you that. I think that was episode 9 specifically, where you see the dog come back to life with like the weird, yeah, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
so
and
yeah,
then-
I can get being like, oh god, here it comes.
But it's not only the dog. In the next episodes, they suddenly have an actual zombie army. And it's just that gang war happened to me, that happened out of nowhere, where I didn't understand, okay, it's this little group, or like whatever Vulcan is. It's this little
Lightning.
lightning. Is it lightning? Or Vulcan is the character, I think.
Vulcan is the character. The name of their group is Lightning.
Yeah. You don't know who Lightning is, and they seem to be this little sister organization of Millennium, and they, for some reason, have all these funds and materials to create this scientific breakthrough, which was weird.
I don't think Lightning was a sister. I think it was a rival mafia group.
No, they were part of Millennium. I'm pretty sure.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why their betrayal of Millennium then, just shocked Big Daddy. But it's like all the action, that gang war came out of nowhere, and then all the action scenes with the zombies were terrible.
Oh, like, you know what?
Yeah, those weren't great. I'll agree with you.
Speaking of ripped straight from the video game, Vulcan does not look like a character who lived in that universe.
I think you mean Blood War.
The guy with the red hair.
Yeah, the guy with the red hair. I'm sorry.
And the glasses. Yeah, he looked super over the top. You put him next to Brendan, especially at that point in the show where Brendan looks really normal and it looks so off.
Can we talk a bit about how in the first 8 or 9 episodes, Brendan's eyes just got sadder and sadder?
I think he got sadder and sadder throughout the entire show because his life was just like wasting away.
It's like just more and more lives.
It's like, he's like, oh, I'm a hitman now. The girl, I can't be with the girl I'm in love with. I guess I'll just let this old man be with her instead. Like, oh, Brendan, why? Why? I felt so bad for him.
Yeah, that's actually something I never quite bought, that he couldn't be with her. Just be with her, man.
No, because in Brendan's eyes, because he's a hitman now, he's not worthy of her. Like, he doesn't feel like, he deserves her.
Yeah, but like the mop boss, like Big Daddy, is any more worthy of her.
But the thing is,
Big
the
Daddy
way that
had the materials to keep her from that life. Brendan didn't.
Not only that, but he's indebted to Big Daddy, not only because Big Daddy helped Brendan himself, but he also acknowledged that Big Daddy has also taken care of Maria this whole time. To him, he feels like Big Daddy's like the only person he can trust Maria to, because he is like, for 7 fucking years he had taken care of Maria.
I feel like that is so much. I feel like he's kind of idolized Maria to the point where she's not a human being anymore. Just be with her, man. What is this?
He's a beta male. Can you say?
He's a simp.
You want to know another... Well, okay. You want to know a nitpick that I had that I also wrote in chat? Is knowing some of these Japanese voice actors from other roles and not being able in my head to distinguish the voice actor from the roles I know them from.
Okay.
There was like Bunji's voice actor. That guy usually plays the absolute villains who are not subordinate to anyone, and was really weird to listen to him call anyone big bro.
Aniki. Come on, the way that he said it was great. That he was like, Aniki.
Like that fucking guy plays Akainu in One Piece.
Oh!
This is the baddest motherfucker ever.
Do you remember during the war in One Piece where Whitebeard knocked the guy? he beat him to a bloody pulp.
Yeah.
That was good.
And then Akainu became the leader of the Marines. That's how badass he is.
That is true.
And then the other Big Daddy, the voice actor, that voice actor also does the narration in the Bartender anime. which I really like. So I was constantly hearing Big Daddy in my head just musing about the details of what this cocktail means to society the entire time. That was really weird too. I know I haven't brought up Bartender yet. I feel like we should watch that too at some point. But yeah,
Maybe we
it's
should
just-
watch that instead of Handshakers.
No,
it
no.
only has 10 episodes.
Yeah.
We already made a deal.
No. I must reverse this deal. This is not fair.
Well, you have
There's something about
until the end of the
something about
episode.
there's something about Japanese voice actors where I feel like they never change their voice. You know
Well,
what I
they're
mean? Like
more
they
like-
never really get into character.
They're more
They-
like character actors.
Yeah.
Where they're playing themselves.
Yeah, like the Japanese voice actors are basically superstars in Japan from what I know. And I feel like the people want to listen to that guy. And
Here's
the
the thing, though.
character himself takes a back seat. It's like Tom Cruise, who never actually dresses up for his roles or never changes his weight or his hair or his looks or anything. He just is
Tom Cruise
Cruise.
always changes his hair. Are you crazy?
Here's the thing, though.
Not
like,
in any meaningful degree.
What, are you
It's the
crazy?
same
He has the
thing.
wildest hair in Hollywood.
What? The fuck are you talking about? Tom Cruise looks the same in every fucking movie.
No, he doesn't. He'll have long hair. He'll have short hair. He's
That doesn't
crazy.
change anything. It's still Tom Cruise.
That changes his hair. What do you? The
No.
exasperation. He's
Oh,
always
because
changing
you're
his hair.
wrong. No, Tom Cruise plays Tom Cruise and no one else.
Oh, he plays Tom Cruise, but he changes his hair.
I'm trying to come up with an actor who actually
Robert Downey
changes.
Jr. He never changes. He's just Robert Downey Jr.
No, I mean
what
someone.
about in Tropic Thunder?
Oh, that is true.
I mean someone who really where you don't see the actor, you just see the character.
But the thing is, though, when you're saying this thing about, like, they don't sound any different, you know, they do the same thing with English dub actors, right? Like, Johnny Young Bosch gets made fun of all the time because he sounds the same in every role.
That's
He
Lelouch.
actually does. He actually knows how to do different types of voices. He actually has good range. The problem is it's exactly as you say, where people just like to hear that voice. Like, they do the same thing with Nolan North as well. The guy that does Drake from Uncharted.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan Drake. That guy knows how to do different voices.
Dude.
But every time he's like, oh, should I do this or that? And they're like, no, we want you to do the Nathan Drake voice. He's
Troy
like, oh,
Baker,
really,
too.
again?
You
He's
should
always-
play Dota 2. Nolan North has voiced a bunch of characters in Dota 2. You cannot fucking tell that these characters are all voiced by the same person. That guy has a huge range.
Yeah.
It is fucking wild.
I'm sure he does. But, like, yeah,
Speaking,
it's this weird thing where, like, people just like to hear that voice. So all these people who are very talented, have great range, and can't utilize it because people are hung up on hearing their voice sound a specific way.
yeah. Here's a fun fact, voice acting wise. The guy who voices Brandon in the dub is called Kirk Thornton. Do you guys recognize that name?
No, yeah, I know who he is.
Bogan, do you know who that is?
No.
That is the baby from Monster.
Whoa, really?
Yes.
You mean the
Oh,
the
wow.
other show I haven't watched dubbed?
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was the baby. Oh, shit. That doesn't sound anything like him.
No.
That's really impressive. Speaking of voice actors, though, one thing I thought was really cool, and they did this both in the sub and the dub, but Harry McDowell is voiced by two different people.
Yes.
So the young Harry and the old Harry are voiced by, let's see here. Old Harry is voiced by Tsutomu Usobe, while young Harry was voiced by Kenji Hamada.
What are their English
And it-
names?
Their English names, Old Harry is Tom Weiner, while young Harry is Tony Oliver.
I see. English
So,
names.
Yeah, I just thought it was a neat little detail, and I think it makes sense, right? Because Harry by the end of the show, looks so much older. Even though he's technically only 39.
Yeah.
He looks like he's
my
looks
voice
like he's
didn't change
59.
that much.
He looks like he's 59 by the end of the show. But I think it was the right choice to also get across like how much Harry has changed since his younger self.
Yeah. So, Daniel, do you feel like we need a sequel to this? Gungrave 2.
Everyone's dead.
Do we need a remake?
Oh, yeah, let's remake it.
Okay, so that was actually something I wanted to ask you guys, right? How would you write this show? If you had the chance, how would you write this show and remove the supernatural elements? How do you think? How would you make that work?
I would not remove the supernatural element. I would severely limit it. I would limit it to maybe Lee and a bunch of his subordinates have these powers, and that's why that's like part of Harry's hitman squad that lets him keep everyone in check. But only Lee. Feel like, and that would also make it more impressive when when Brandon actually defeats Lee.
Because here's how I feel about it, right? Like, I feel like the supernatural stuff, the sci-fi stuff, does hold the show back. But I feel like the moment where Brandon dies and him coming back, there's a lot of great stuff that comes from that, and that can only work because of the sci-fi stuff. Yeah. So you might be right. It might be a better idea to just mute the science fiction elements and just not make it as prevalent. Get rid of the stupid boss fights. Like, just chuck that in the trash. We don't need Bob with a helicopter. We don't need fucking bear walking with like the multi-hands thing and slicing a house in half with a katana sword. Which, by the way, I love that bear as a weeaboo. That's fucking hilarious. I love the episode where he's like eating sushi and he's just like chucking sushi in his mouth. He's just like, oh.
See, but yeah, I would rewrite the moment when Harry shoots Brandon so that he survives, but he doesn't need the necrolyze to actually be revived. Like, I would try to bring him back as a normal human being, and that would make the fight against Lee more impressive when he wins. That would make all his fights more impressive.
But well, I feel like
how would you explain Brendan like surviving that? Like, he gets shot out of a building through his eye and falls like I don't know how many stories.
You can write that in a different way, where he doesn't get shot in his eye and he doesn't fall from an elevator. But he also
has to be out of the battle for 13 years. The elevator
scene is so good.
Yeah, but you can have the elevator scene somewhere else. You can have it in a garden or whatever.
I think the better rewrite would just be to say, "Hey, Brandon is back. Oh, Harry, we don't want to be friends with you anymore." And then you just don't have those fights. And then you just have Brendan chasing Harry. If you're gonna rewrite it, I don't think the supernatural, magic sci-fi stuff does hold the show back. I think that going so far away from the interpersonal drama of these characters is what holds the show back, but only for those few episodes.
I mean,
if it had been just, oh, hey, Brendan's going to meet these characters who he knew back then, and they're like, oh, shit. So instead of having a samurai fight, they just have like a conversation or something. And then Brendan goes to fight Harry.
Yeah, it feels like the show was torn between the story that it actually wanted to tell and being true to the video games, which being true to the video games is what's holding it back. Because it's like, oh yeah, I mean, again, haven't played them, so I could be talking out of my ass, but it really felt like these were literal boss fights from the game, and they wanted to make sure that fans of the game could see animated versions of these fights, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know either. Where's the big red face?
I don't know. You know what? One of these, there's 2 Gungrave games, and there's also a VR game for some reason that came out like a year or 2 ago.
What?
I'm gonna see if I can try and play the 2 Gungrave games just to see.
This is like a
what
license
the
that's
hell
still
it's
alive 20 years later.
Like, I just need to see what those games are about and see what is carried over into the anime, because like it's so confusing.
I'm 99% sure that you'll find very little of the anime in those games. I feel like Madhouse.
Probably.
I feel like Madhouse just went, okay, here's all the stuff we can do. All right, we need to have some fights. Okay, but we'll devote almost every episode to our own stuff, and then we'll just shoehorn in 3 or 4 episodes to do the game or games.
It really does feel like that. It feels like the game got in the way of them telling this much better story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame. It's a shame. But that's the dilemma I've had with this show for years. And it's why, like, I'm so conflicted about it, but I still love it. Like, you know, I get why some people wouldn't like this show because of that, and I think that's fair, because I do think it's a substantial weakness, and it can definitely negatively impact someone's experience with the show. But there's so much good shit in this show. Like, Brendan and Harry make this show. Like, their relationship is so good. It's so complex. There's so much depth to it. Like, I can forgive some of the weaker episodes. I can forgive some of like the lost potential with how how Brendan interacts with the top 4 at the end. You know, like, yeah, they could have done more with that. I think if Brendan had a more interesting relationship with Bob, for example, that fight could have had more weight to it. Brendan already had an interesting relationship with Bear, and you know that didn't really, like you said, Boken. They didn't really do as much with it as they could have. What were you gonna say, Boken?
Even with Bob, while I was watching that fight, I was imagining another scenario where Bob isn't a superior, and Brandon had to get into some kind of building or facility where Bob was just sitting in a control room, like controlling the security measures of the building, and Brandon was having to fight his way through that.
See, that would make a lot more sense,
yeah.
And it would fit more with his character.
And that's why, I mean, you can just just mute the supernatural elements, just keep them with Lee. That makes sense, because
even with Lee though, to me Lee felt like a stealth assassin, and nothing about his like transformation really reflected that.
Sure, yeah.
Oh yeah. He did go pretty far out of character.
When Lee the first time brought out these weird pins, these weird needles, I was like, what the fuck is that? What kind of, like, when did that have any place in this mafia show? Suddenly he's throwing needles around.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I think we can end it here if you guys are okay with that.
Sure.
All right. Do you have any final words, Acer?
I don't know. I liked it. I think that if you listened this far without watching the anime, then you're first of all an absolute monster. But go watch it. Check it out. It's worth watching, I think.
Boken?
I agree. I mean, as I said, I have a lot of criticisms of it, but I was never bored, and I liked a lot of the stuff in it, even in the last episodes.
I mean, the ending is one of my favorite endings.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a strong, strong ending.
The first Bungie fight is great. Mm-hmm. I cared for Mika.
Yeah, like, even... I would argue, like, even in the show's, like, weakest arc, there's still great stuff there. Like, I felt so bad when those 2 old guys that helped Brendan in the beginning of the show, with the gambling and stuff. Like, when those two guys died towards the end, like, yeah, they weren't, like, especially great characters or anything, but I still felt bad because, like, these were people that meant a lot to Brendan. Like, even if they were, in the grand scheme of things, not all that important.
Oh, man.
Like,
that episode. I fucked up when I was watching that. I skipped the episode where they go to these two old guys and they get killed and Mika gets captured. So I was watching the episode before that, and then I accidentally skipped that one and tuned into the next one, where Mika was suddenly captured by the mafia guys, and then she had a flashback to the two old guys dying, and I had no fucking idea what was going on until I realized I skipped an episode. I was so mad about that. And I was watching the entire fucking episode knowing they were going to die.
oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's a real bummer. Actually, I wanted to know, why did you like Mika so much before we end this out?
Because she was the only female character that had any agency and any motivation at all. And
I would say of the three female characters, she is easily the best.
And she just felt, helpless, but determined in a way that made me feel bad for her. Like, everyone around her dies, and she has it's through no fault of her own whatsoever. She's just caught in this war.
I really like that in the very last episode when the guy that took over the organization after Harry was ousted, he basically tells her, like, you're free now, you don't have to worry, we're not gonna chase after you anymore. She just, like, freaks out because she's like, then what was it all for?
Yeah.
Everyone I
What's the
knew
point?
is like, her whole life was completely uprooted. Everyone that she knew and loved dead, and now she's just has to deal with, like, oh yeah, that's it. You're done. We're not gonna bother you anymore. It's like,
Yeah,
what the fuck?
and the best he could do was to say to her that, well, they're just casualties, unfortunate casualties of the way we do business. Like, excuse me, that's not good enough.
One of the guys was even like, look, what you went through is shitty, but we're not going to apologize. It's just the way things are. It's like, fucking brutal, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you guys liked the show. And like I said, I know it's got its weird issues, but hopefully, you could see why I recommended it, because I feel like the good parts are like 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
That elevator scene, 10 out of 10.
I will
Harry.
I will say that the weird parts, I don't think they make the show any worse. I think the cost of having the weird parts is just that we had a couple of episodes which are sort of duds, whereas it could have been a lot of great episodes. So, I don't think the show is worse for having them, if that makes sense.
For me, it turns what should have been a 10 out of 10 show and makes it more like an 8 or a 9, depending on how generous you want to be.
Well, you first of all, also depending on if that's your rating system, which we know it isn't.
Oh, shut up. But you know what I mean. Like, I could see someone being like, I give the mafia part of Gungrave a 10 out of 10, and I give the sci-fi part of it like a 5 or a 4, and then it like balances out. It's like, I guess it's like a 7 or an 8, I suppose.
Bogan, how many stars do you give it?
See, I'm kind of torn between 3 out of 5 and 4 out of 5.
3.5 out of 5.
He
No,
doesn't do
3
halves.
out of 5 or 4 out of 5.
Do you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, Daniel?
I give it a 9 out of 10.
No, that's not exact. I feel like you're stealing my review system.
I don't care.
I created that review system.
See, like, I feel pretty comfortable saying this is a 9 out of 10 because I don't feel right saying it's a 10 out of 10 because I feel that the flaws are too glaring to ignore. But I like what it does right so much that I'm willing to boost it up a little bit and give it that 9.
Hmm. Is it a strong 9?
It's a decent 9.
It's a decent 9. I see.
It's not a weak 9. It's not a strong 9. It's a decent 9.
It's a decent 9. It's a decent 9.
It's an acceptable 9.
Acceptable 9. In Germany, that would be a no. So you're saying that Germans shouldn't watch the episode? Watch the series? Isn't that right,
Well,
Bogan?
I mean, I've already got a German to watch it, so there with that. All right. I think that's it. I guess we're watching Handshakers?
Handshakers.
Next?
And then whatever the fuck the other thing is called. WZ? WX? I don't know.
So, Handshakers is a 12-episode series that has a sequel series called WZ.
WZ, yeah.
Which is another 12 episodes, so I guess we're going to watch that.
And I just want to say, I am sorry.
I don't believe you.
No, I am actually sorry. I feel like I'm abusing you for my own morbid curiosity.
Oh yeah, you could just watch this on your own.
No, yeah, but that's not gonna be fun. Like that feels like a show I need someone to dissect it with me. You probably have no idea how fucking bad the first episode was that I have. Seen.
Here I am trying the best that I can to like get you guys to watch some really good stuff. Monster, Gungrave. Even if we can agree,
didn't
Gungrave's
Bogan
not
recommend
perfect.
Monster?
No.
No, that was me.
False. I'm giving you fake valor, Bogan. Come on.
Come on, I gave you Madoka. That's a good show too.
Madoka's a good show. Yeah, I mean, Acer didn't appreciate it.
I didn't like that.
I already have the next anime in mind, which was, I don't know if I'm gonna say it here.
No,
but
let's keep
leave
it for the reveal.
I will say though that it is one that a viewer wanted us to watch as well.
Ooh.
Oh, it's Alpha
So, no, it is not. It is absolutely not.
What do you have against that?
One of you can suggest.
Maybe
that.
what if Elven
Not
Lied?
I.
What if Elven Lied is in the same universe as Gungrave? You didn't think about
hope
that,
so.
did you, Daniel?
I hope so. Then Brendan can kill all the characters.
No, he can't.
That'll make me happy.
Him's dead.
Not in the games.
But look,
He's still alive in the games.
all I'm saying is you need perspective in your life, and you need to watch trash to appreciate the good shows.
I suppose you're right.
No,
And it's
he's
a-
not
You
right.
just sometimes you need to hit rock bottom.
Ugh.
So I'm helping you, is what I'm saying. I'm doing you a favor. You're welcome.
Daniel, this
you.
this
Fuck you.
didn't have to happen if you were willing to negotiate. You did this to yourself.
I did not do this to myself. Don't you lie to me. All right. This has been the Essays and Espresso podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you listen to this without watching Gungrave, that's a shame. But hopefully, maybe it will get you to watch it anyways. I don't know. That's it, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.